What's up, my fellow scruffy looking nerf herders, and welcome to the Carbonite Chat. Today, I'm going to be talking about why I believe Sith Training should have 100%, no question, been in The Last Jedi. I think it would have made everything much better. This goes off of a video I did the other day, which talked about how Rey and Luke, how the training should have been with that. And it got me kind of thinking about the Sith Training, and I've mentioned it before, but I wanted to talk about it a little bit more and why this needed to happen and why this argument of Star Wars needed to change or Star Wars needed to develop and it needed to kind of be broken down so that it could do something, because, you know, Rian Johnson saving us from ourselves is just absurd, and it shows how pathetic of a writer he is and how uncreative. I've heard someone else that put an argument in the other day in my comments that said that, you know, this had to happen because, you know, somebody, I don't even remember who he said, I don't know if it was a YouTuber or something, said that, you know, Star Wars had to end at some point because you could never continually have endless amounts of, you know, episodes about lightsabers and Jedi. And that's just insane to even begin to comment or say. I mean, you know, do we have, you know, is there too many police thriller movies, too many like heist movies? Is there, you know, too many westerns? Some people would say yes. You know, is there too many comedy films? Like, you can spread it out into so many different things. I mean, right now Marvel's doing like 3 or 4 movies a year, and that's not counting Fox doing the same type of thing, and DC doing a similar thing. And there's like 8 of those movies a year coming out right now. And we're talking about one Star Wars movie a year coming out, and we don't even have to use the same characters. It's just a fantasy film where they happen to have lightsabers. I mean, how many samurai movies have been made? You know, it's a pathetic argument that because someone's using one type of, you know, object to fight with, that limits the capabilities that you have there. And especially to try to say that this needed to happen so quickly, that, you know, we're going to run into this, you know, where people are getting tired of Star Wars. It's just, it's so dumb. It's unbelievable. It's them trying to argue why The Last Jedi drops off, because it drops off drastically. And the reason that there's this fatigue is because it's not Star Wars. We don't care about this watered down crap change that they've decided to give to us. You could have done, and this is what I'm going to begin to discuss, shown some things that we had never seen before. You could have expanded the lore and stuck with keeping it the way it is. Now, a lot of questions we had could be answered with Sith Training. One is, who is Snoke? We all want to know who it is. Rian Johnson said, there just wasn't a way for me to fit it into the story. Well, here you go. You ended The Force Awakens saying, bring Kylo Ren to me. It's time for me to complete his training. Yet no training happened. At the end, it's kind of tried to fit it in and be like, oh, if you kill Rey, then that will be complete your training. Well, no wonder he sucks as a villain, because his training is just, oh, you just have to kill somebody. That's tough. That's like step 1 of brainwashing, guys. Like, no wonder nothing's ever, you know, worked out. No wonder everyone's so terrible in the First Order, and despite the fact you've got every advantage, you can't win it. So he was called in to talk about training. The other thing everyone's talked about is they're like, oh, it's not Sith. Oh, it's not Sith. So for those of you that are saying right now, like, don't call it Sith. I don't know what to call it. So I have to, you clicked on the video because you understand that what I mean when I put that, you know, Star Wars needed Sith Training. But they didn't name it. Here's a chance to delve into the philosophy, much like I talked about in my prior video about what Luke and Rey, you could have discussed, okay, there was issues with the Jedi Order. This is what happened in the prequels because they made mistakes. Here's how Luke's changing it, and here's how we're going to further develop and improve upon. See, great open-minded thinkers. And for those of you, I'm not going to be as mean as I sometimes are. A lot of people don't understand or grasp the fact that, like, look, we learn from the past and we improve upon it and continue to grow from that point. This is what wise people do. So this is showing the wisdom of Luke, where he's going to teach Rey what it was that was the issues, how to improve it, and how we're going to try to make it better. And then you could do that again 6 to 9 episodes from now. It's a continually developing philosophy. I mean, that's just how almost everything goes. So then we've got that with Luke and Rey. And then over here, we don't know what Snoke is. The only reason they said they're not Sith is they're trying to pretend they're doing something original, which they're not. And they're wanted to be able to say that Snoke's more powerful than everybody, which he's not. I don't care what you say. We don't see anything really that he does. So they're trying to say that he's more powerful, but George Lucas had said, you know, Emperor Palpatine was the most powerful Sith of all time. So they had to say, oh, well, he's not a Sith. Yet they function exactly the same. Yeah, there's the Knights of Ren off to the side, but we don't really see them. And it's just a master and apprentice. So why don't we begin to see a development of, okay, well, what are they? Do they still have the rule of two? Is there more people? Like, there's questions that can be answered here, and it can be answered so we understand the philosophy, we understand this new dark side force that we have, or whether or not they're trying to develop a gray, as a lot of people thought, because, you know, he wanted Kylo because he was a mixture of the light and the dark. Okay, tell us how this is these new gray or whatever they are. But develop it, explain it. And then the other thing that he said that you couldn't do, the reason why he didn't use the Knights of Ren is because he couldn't figure out a way to have them in there and be the Praetorian Guards, but not kill them off. And this is supposed to be a brilliant writer, and we can't understand how in-depth his writing is because he's so much smarter than everyone. Yet he can't figure out how to put the Knights of Ren in the movie to be able to, and not kill them off. Let me just think for a second here. What was the Ex Machina that kind of saved everyone towards the end of the film, right around the same time that Kylo Ren and Rey were fighting off the Praetorian Guards? Oh yeah, Holdo flying the ship through the Supremacy. So why not actually having that scene? You could have actually had the Knights of Ren fighting Rey and beating her, where she's getting tossed around everywhere. She's struggling and she's losing. And we get to see her, you know, suffering. We get to see her struggling. We get to see kind of like the Empire Strikes Back type scene where she's just getting tossed around, and it can make it interesting for episode 9 that, oh, she could actually lose, because if Kylo shows up with the Knights of Ren, we saw her getting her butt whooped with the Knights of Ren before, and then now we've got intrigue. Well, how is she going to be able to survive it? See, this is starting to develop a bit of a good character, and then guess what happens? She's having to fight off multiple people at one time. She's struggling because she's used to using a staff, but now she's going to develop a new lightsaber that's double-ended, and then she's going to be able to hold off and defend herself better because she's really good with a staff and she's been using a more of a sword type. You see, these are all kind of interesting. These are all things I'm sure you probably want to see. And you could have had Rey actually struggling and losing. There kills the Mary Sue thing. And then as she's struggling and losing, and you think, oh, there's a chance she can end up dying, what is going to happen here? And that's when Holdo flies through, and then everyone goes unconscious, and of course, she's going to wake up before everyone else. But if you would have done that and showed her getting her butt whooped, people wouldn't be complaining as much as like, oh, Mary Sue again, she wakes up, but Kylo, the guy that's much larger and should be able to kind of recover a bit faster because, you know, the size of the hit, someone of that size should be able to deal with that hit over someone half the size, if not smaller, because I think Kylo or Adam Driver's like 6'3" or something. So he's probably at least twice the size of Daisy Ridley. But, you know, that could all have been happened. It could have been very interesting. You could have built up the Knights of Ren, and then that could have been in the training as well, where you could have begun to show the Knights of Ren, where in the training, Snoke is training all of the Knights of Ren. And Kylo is the master because he's the most talented. He's elevated, and it's kind of like, you know, he's been put over the top of this kind of wing of the army of the First Order. And he just is called the master. And it's kind of because Snoke views that he has this potential, being that he's Vader's grandson. But you can begin to go and you can show something we've never seen in the movies before, which is Sith training. We've seen them some in Clone Wars. We had Dooku training, Savage Press. And you could begin to build up how terrifying Snoke is, where you could have him, you know, doing some impressive stuff. You could also have him just doing some of the basic stuff that we saw Dooku doing with Savage Press, where as Kylo's trying to, you know, train and learn to use the Force, he's being struck by lightning the entire time. You could have him, you know, chastising Kylo here and being like, you know, you had the, you know, striking him with lightning as he's like suffering and screaming. You can begin to, you know, Snoke could talk about how, you know, you struggled against a girl much like he did in the film, or Snoke said in the actual Last Jedi film. But you struggled against a girl. You had all the opportunity. You know, the Sith and the dark side have always fueled themselves off their pain. Darth Vader's suit hurt him, and he used that pain to become one of the most powerful Sith of all time. You've got to learn to take that anger and take all this emotion and anger. See, you take what was in The Force Awakens, where you see him being an emotional, hot-headed guy that just starts slashing up stuff, and Snoke starts talking about it and saying, you need to, you know, build that up, hold it in, and use it as just this force to kind of, whenever it's needed, to overpower whoever you're going against. And you have these lessons being taught. It's helping out some of the stuff that went on with The Force Awakens, where you begin to kind of see like, oh, okay, yeah, okay, he's learning from it. Snoke is wise. He is teaching him how to bottle up and learn these things. And then that could begin to, it's a character arc for Kylo, where you see, oh, here's the whiny guy, which is what all the Skywalkers were at the beginning of their movies. And so like, you could do that, and then you see the change where Kylo's no longer that whiny kid, and you're like, oh, okay, this is actually a good character arc. And what could have been an interesting character, if you developed him, is nothing now, you know. Hopefully, at least in episode 9, that no one cares to watch, he's going to be a legitimate, you know, scary guy. Not scary guy, that might be pushing it too far, but not whiny. But why didn't you begin developing a reason for why he's not whiny anymore? Does it really make sense? And he was still whiny all the way up to the very end of episode 8. Why not develop the character? And in this is when you can start to explain what Snoke is. And it could have been beautifully done, where you could have been cutting back and forth. And see, the problem with this is people want to talk about character development, but there wasn't any character development in this movie because it spread the story too thin. You had Ahch-To over here. You had Kylo and Rey. You had Luke and Rey. You had Holdo and Poe. You had Finn and whatever her name is, Rose, going off here. You split it into all these multiple stories, and you can't properly tell any of them. You can't properly take the time to develop the characters. Like Empire Strikes Back, where it basically just followed two people. You had Luke and Yoda on Dagobah, and then you had Han and Leia on the Millennium Falcon, wherever they may be at that time. This is what should have been done here. You should have developed the stories where you had the Sith training and or whatever dark side user they try to decide to name them. That training cutting back and forth between the training between Luke and Rey. That this would have been something very, this would have been really interesting to see. And you could contrast and conflict their just different ideologies by showing how Kylo's being, kind of berated. He's being electrocuted. He's being hurt. That Snoke could have the Knights of Ren attacking and trying to teach him how to fight off all of these people as he's being electrocuted and feeling the pain. Or limiting him in some other way, and that is through anger and hatred and attacking and this whole side that we've never been fully explained unless you've read through a lot of the books and novels, but we've never seen it in the movies. While it flips over to Luke training Rey and teaching the exact opposite side. This would really help kind of put together and help everyone, the mass audience as well, begin to understand and see what are these conflicting ideologies. Exactly. It's not just one side wears a black outfit with a mask and the other one's an old raggedy guy, and then the Jedis wear robes. That's the knowledge that the mass audience has. Why not do something better? Why not actually tell this story? It would be very interesting, and you could be doing this. And while you're doing this at the beginning, instead of having all this time wasted with a stupid scene of this car chase in slow motion, have it where it sets up and you start out and it goes down to Snoke's ship. And Snoke is already in the middle of just berating Kylo. Everything's happening and Kylo's being just kind of continually beat down and tossed around by Snoke. And then it cuts to the calm of Ahch-To. And what could be going on is it could be longer till Dakar happens, because that's the reason why I say start with Kylo being just kind of tossed around or being mistreated. Start with a little bit of action to kind of put you into the middle of the scene, and then cut to Dakar, and you have Leia and Poe and Akbar, all trying to figure out what are we going to do. Hey, we think they've got an idea where we may be. We need to move and find another location. We need to, the Republic was just destroyed. Start touching on some of these other questions we have. And they can be doing that while on Dakar. Hey, the Republic was destroyed, but, you know, Mon Mothma set up that the defenses would be spread out around the galaxy. At each planet would have their own kind of defense forces, so that there was, you know, the army wasn't completely centralized. So we need to reach out to all of these people, and then you could begin to explain, okay, hey, Black Squadron, everyone but Poe, I need Poe here. Everyone but Poe, fly out, and we need you to go over there and try to round up as many people as you can. You head here, you head here, you head here, you head here. All right, there's a few people that I know that I can reach from here. Go ahead and call out to them and get them to come here as quick as possible. We need to round up the army that we can, so if anything ends up happening, we can have all of our group together to defend against the First Order. So now you're beginning to explain what's up with the Republic. Where's these things going? Why are some of these issues going? And then you get the calls in like, no, you know, we're too afraid. We're going to stay off. We're protecting ourselves. We're sorry. You know, because it's this movie, they'll say Godspeed. And then that's when Holdo appears. And you meet Holdo at the very beginning. And Holdo is one of the only people that actually shows up on the car to assist. And then you can have it where it's her, they show that it's her bombing fleet that's sent out, which causes the issue with Poe. And she was the one that was against it from the very beginning, saying this isn't wise, that we'll be able to get away. And then you could have for Rose, leave Finn in a coma for most, if not all, the movie, because it's better than what you did with them. But we're not going to have Canto Bight because that's stupid. But have Rose, if you want to import Rose, have her come in and do it where she's actually this great mechanic that they talked about in the book. That it shows her developing the, you know, what goes on the back of Poe's ship that allows him to fly at like the highest speed that any X-Wing's ever flown. Have her developing the muffler, the stuff on the back of the transports that ends up kind of cloaking them. Have her working and doing these things. She's not talking down to a man. She's not calling someone stupid or dumb every 2 seconds. She's not being an idiot. She's not electrocuting people because they care about their own lives and safety. She's being talented in what she should be talented in. If you're telling us she's a mechanic, okay, show us how talented of a mechanic she is. Show her having, you know, sliced in or gotten access somehow to inside the supremacy. So later, that's how they end up knowing how they're tracking. Spend some time developing this. And then later in the second act, that's when they appear. Or the end of the first act. And then you have that attack going on there. But you're explaining some stuff with them, with what's going on, putting in some backstory, but the meat of the story is this back and forth between what's going on with the Jedi and their training and what's going on with the Sith and their training. This has never been done. You've got an open book. I mean, again, it's been done in some of the novels and it's been done in, you know, Clone Wars, but we've never seen it in movies. Here's your chance to do something new, expand the lore, build it up, explain stuff that happened in, you know, The Force Awakens, explain some of the stuff we needed answers for. But instead you did none of it. And it's just, you know, it's this argument that there's nowhere to go. Well, here's a lot of different ways to go right here that we still haven't seen. So before you start saying, oh, there's nothing else that we can do, and if you explain so well the differences between the dark side and the light as opposed to training, their philosophies of fighting, why they do what they do, you don't think this is going to be a huge step forward in explaining to the mass audience that doesn't know about some of these novels or games that's come out with Star Wars? And then you have maybe say Benioff and Weiss, who I'm not sold on doing a great job, but we'll just say it seems to fit them more. Put them and they then announce that we're doing an Old Republic series. So we're going to start a whole new storyline of movies. You know, 9, 10, how many ever you want to do of the Old Republic. We're gonna go back there and we're gonna begin to explain, show the Sith Wars. We're gonna show the wars between where there's tons of Jedi and tons of Sith fighting against each other. Don't you think it would be beneficial to begin to explain what are the key differences? Now, once you get into it, there's gonna be, you know, these, you know, this group of Sith believe kind of this way, this group of Sith believe, but without that core knowledge set in to begin with, you're throwing too much out there and people are just going to get confused and it's going to feel like it's a Nolan movie to some people. Now the fans that have been around for a very long time, they're going to love it. They're going to eat that up. but I know they want to make a lot of money. But here's the opportunity. You see, you do something completely different. You show something we've never seen before, and then that opens up a whole nother gamut of things that you can go through and do. And this can it just continues to spiral out. The ripple opens up more ideas and more concepts. Why wasn't this done? This would have been so interesting, and it could have made Kylo sympathetic, if that's what they want to do. I think that's stupid to continually try to make him sympathetic. You know, I don't think that's the right thing to do right now, but whatever. But it could have made him somewhat sympathetic. And then I think going full dark with him would have been the smartest thing to do. But if you see him where people that have no idea what Sith training is begin to see the way he's treated by Snoke, all of a sudden it can begin to explain to some people why he has this rage inside of him, why he's so angry all the time, you know, why he's conflicted. You know, all these little things can be talked about and dealt with, and it could have been done so interestingly. And as I've said so many times, and so I'll say it one last time, is it would have been something we've never seen before, and that would have been great. There's still stuff we haven't seen before. There's a lot of stuff we haven't seen before. Yet, we're trying to act like, because we're trying to make Ryan feel better, we're trying to make it sound like Ryan is smart or knows what he's doing or is talented or is doing something that's beneficial for everyone, as all these articles have come out now saying, you know, Ryan is, you know, did what we needed in Star Wars. No, he didn't. No, he didn't. Like, he didn't. And it's a sad, pathetic excuse for a story by itself, and a very sad, pathetic excuse for a Star Wars story. But anyways, those are my thoughts and feelings on those. You know, I look forward to hearing your thoughts and opinions on everything down below. And that'll be pretty much it. So thank you very much for watching. And never forget, you Nerf herders, I love you.